Behind Every Great Revolution is a Woman by Jacey, Toney, and Meagan Mendez. Before the Revolutionary War, unmarried women could own, sell, and or buy property, but after marriage, her husband gained sole control over their joint property. The Revolutionary War gave rise to several legal rights to women that they did not possess before the war. The women were given the liberty to divorce, to own businesses, to own property separately from their husbands, and in New Jersey, the right to vote. Even though women had been voting in a select few states since the colonial era, many other states denied women this right. As early as 1756 in Massachusetts, Lydia Chapin Taft cast a ballot in the local town hall meeting in place of her deceased husband. However, she and other women lost the right to vote when the new Massachusetts state constitution took effect on March 2, 1780. Women also lost the right to cast their ballot in New York in 1777 and in New Hampshire in 1784. Women were able to vote in New Jersey on a technicality. The 1776 New Jersey Constitution did not specify the gender of those eligible for the franchise, but permitted all persons worth over 50 pounds to vote. Women who met the property qualifications were allowed to vote, but married women were not, because anything she owned belonged to her husband. In 1790, the law was revised to specifically include women, but in 1807, the law was again changed to exclude them. Abigail Adams was one of the first advocates of women's equal education and women's property rights. In a now famous letter to her husband John in March of 1776, Adams wrote, "Remember the ladies, and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors." She had strong feelings about marriage and believed women should take more part in decisions rather than simply serve their husbands. Adams believed that women should educate themselves and use their intellect to manage the household affairs, as well as be a moral guide for the family. Mercy Otis Warren was a published poet, political playwright, and satirist during the age of the American Revolution, a time when women were encouraged and expected to keep silent on political matters, or not only engaged with the leading figures of the day, such as John, Abigail, and Samuel Adams, but she became an outspoken commentator and historian, as well as the leading female intellectual of the Revolution and early Republic. Although many Loyalist women followed their men into exile, others faced down rebel mobs to remain on their farms to manage the widow's thirds, 1/3 share of their deceased husband's estate, that they were entitled to under colonial law, and the emerging American government allowed it, so that they and their children would not become burdens on their towns. There was pressure on Loyalist women to leave their property, even at great sacrifice. However, in leaving, they lost any semblance of independence. They often required permission from the local committees of vigilance. Then, they needed aid and assistance from Indian and military guides to reach husbands stationed in military forts or in refugee camps. In these forts and camps, they were only significant as spouses. They were treated as dependents and burdens. A loyal patriot of the American Revolution, Penelope Barker organized the famous Edenton Tea Party, the first recorded women's political demonstration in America. Barker rallied 50 women in Edenton, North Carolina, to sign a resolution boycotting British tea. The move was made in response to the 1773 Tea Act, passed by Parliament, which gave the British East India Tea Company a monopoly in the colonies and was the last in a series of taxes and policies that colonists fiercely resented.
The Edenton Tea Party was one of the earliest organized women's political actions in the United States history. On October 25, 1774, Miss Penelope Baker organized at the home of Miss Elizabeth King 51 women in Edenton, North Carolina. Together they formed an alliance wholeheartedly supporting the American cause against taxation without representation. News of the Edenton Tea Party quickly reached Britain. During the 1770s, political resistance was common, but an organized women's movement was not. So the Edenton Tea Party shocked the Western world. From England in January 1775, Arthur Iredale wrote his brother, James Iredale, describing England's reaction to the Edenton Tea Party. According to Arthur Iredale, the incident was not taken seriously because it was led by women. He sarcastically wrote, "The only security on our side is the probability that there are but few places in America which possesses so much female artillery as Edenton."
The Daughters of Liberty consisted of women who displayed their patriotism by participating in boycotts of British goods following the passage of the Townshend Acts. Since women often purchased consumer goods for the home, they became instrumental in upholding the boycott and ensured that women did not purchase British goods, particularly tea.